kind of a wild passage.
Yeah.
It's interesting, you'll note in this, he doesn't say, and Judah will rule over them. And he doesn't say, and of course, all my people, the people in the center of that will be in charge politically. And he doesn't say, like, none of that stuff is relevant, right?
Yeah. Well, he's saying they're the third. It's almost like they're, I don't know. To me it's the tree grafting in new branches, and the tree
Right.
is, it's like the focus is the new branches. The Gentiles being brought in, as
This is
opposed to,
elsewhere in Isaiah talks about the Spirit being poured out on all flesh.
yeah.
And this is another one of those pointers to where God is headed in terms of what his ideas for how things should work are.
So it's a different type of vibe. It's a joining together and a preferring other nations. And so,
Well, in
um,
a way of peace, right? And the whole idea is that all of this squabbling, all of this fighting, all of this stuff is just not relevant in this future. This actually kind of happened in the first century. Now, granted, they were all being ruled by pagan Romans, but there were Christian communities all the way from Alexandria to Damascus, right?
yeah,
And
and
there was
beyond.
where large parts of the region were in fact unified. And in fact, the Middle East has been unified in the past. The Middle East, we think of it as a very
Fragmented.
atomized and
Yeah,
fragmented place, but that actually hasn't been true
it's more
for
recent
large
history.
parts.
Post Versailles, post World
Yeah.
War One, Europe is carving up the Middle East, and just because the Ottomans are in decline,
Yep.
they're pretty much gone. Yeah, so it's hard to imagine now, because for the last 100 and plus years, they're very fractured. But yeah, you mentioned the early church. Isaiah 19 smacks of what actually was happening. That
Hmm.
because of unification in the Messiah, there were people in Alexandria, which was one of the five major centers of Christianity in the first couple centuries. And then there's a branch of the church called the Nestorian Church, which totally was headquartered past Damascus into modern day Iraq. And there's actually ruins of a Nestorian church in modern, way northern Iraq, actually right up against the border of Turkey, where the Kurds live. And so I don't know if the ancient Nestorians are the ancestors of the Kurds, or if there's been people movement since then. I don't know. Maybe you know.
So, funnily, my dad's actually been to Kurdistan. So he came as to do a bunch of pastoral training in like 2007, 2008, because Kurdistan was reasonably quiet, so you could kind of go there. And the grave of the prophet Nahum is there
Okay.
in northern Iraq, actually.
Yeah, because
And
he prophesied against Nineveh, right?
I'm pretty sure it's
He
Nahum.
did, because I think
One of
Nahum
the
did that, and because first Jonah did it, and then God relented, and then Nahum comes, and then there's actually judgment on
Yeah, and
on
Nineveh is the capital of the Assyrian Empire, so that's the main
yeah.
one. One thing also to keep in mind is it isn't just that this was happening in the first century. This is still happening now, right? I mean, I have friends that are Palestinian Christians. I have friends that are Israeli Christians. There's still a lot of very godly people all over that region who really want peace.
I think you're right. It's never stopped, but clearly there's not a free flow of movement within the borders of at least the current political setup where Jerusalem is, where the Zion is. It uses Zion. Zion's a metaphor, but it's actually also a
Right.
hill. And what I hear you saying is the flowing of worshiping peoples of different ethnicities, be them Egyptian or Assyrian, the people that worship God, who are united by the Son of God, that there is sort of a highway of free flow. A lot of Americans travel to Israel and to do the Lord's work. And I hadn't thought of that. I certainly thought of that, at least up until around 600, when Islam came, that there was a highway functionally. And the Roman roads probably were that highway. You really could travel freely around these areas. And I don't know where the exact highways were, but there was a free flow of worshipers from Egypt to Assyria, and,
All over.
probably a lot of them stopping in Jerusalem to worship, at least until 70, to worship at the temple. There wasn't a whole lot of worshiping going on after the temple was destroyed, but the Christians were still gathering around Zion, which is the holy hill of the Lord, which Jesus is Jesus is the centerpiece of that. Let's bring it to the modern era. There's a ministry that's called Highway 19, and their goal is to make the highway with these three nations a reality. And you can look it up online, Highway 19 Ministries, and it's referencing Isaiah 19. And their goal is reconciliation through the love of God, through the ministry of Jesus, not by crusading or dominating or killing, but authentic New Testament Jesus style ministry, and a desire to see this happen again, or maybe happen again with more freely, because there's been a little bit of a halt to the free flow between the Arab countries and the Jewish country since 48.
The question is, do we participate in that in as much as we're able to by
No.
looking at acting in a way God would have us act? And the thing that has been revealed that we do know is whatever it is you're going to do, you'd better check your methodology. Think you're doing the will of God, but
No.
anybody that says, I love God and hates his brother is a liar.
All right.
The one thing that's always clear is we have to act in such a way that we honor God by how we treat those around us. And if you're
No.
looking at people primarily as obstacles to be overcome or as impediments to getting what you want,
Yeah.
you're in a world of hurt and you're working contrary to what God would have you do.
And I'm flashing back to the persecuted Christians in the book of Revelation. But the question is, how do you do that when you're being attacked? And therefore, then how do you respond? And what role do we play to doing our part to see this free flow of worship happening, the worship of Jesus, the Son of God, in this whole area? What part do we play in that? How do we make it work?